We all know that video games are super expensive to make and are a pretty huge investment for developers. However, developers sometimes worry that their game isn't good enough to get that money back, and resort to making up features that aren't actually present in the final product in order to coax people into buying. What's up guys, my name is Burnsy, and today we're going to be counting down the top 10 lies told by developers in order to sell more copies of their game. Ready? Let's get started. We are running a $200 Amazon gift card giveaway the entire month. All you have to do to enter is like this video, be subscribed, turn on your notifications, and comment why you want to win with your Twitter handle attached. I will announce the winner at the end of the month on Twitter. Number 10. THEIF. Remember this game from 2014? Not many people do, due to it being pretty bad, but another main reason people forget about it is due to the utter lies told by developers leading up to its release. This 2014 game is actually a reboot of the THEIF franchise, with the first game being released back in 1998. The series was known for being incredibly difficult and punishing to newcomers. When the reboot was announced, many fans were worried that the difficulty would be toned down in order to appeal to more casual players, as many franchise reboots are known to do this. Eidos and Square Enix assured players that the new THEIF would be just as hard as the original games, and that longtime fans had nothing to worry about. However, when the game was released, not only did it kind of suck, but it was also incredibly easy. The controls were simple, the maps were straightforward, and the enemy AI was awful. If you want an awesome stealth game, go back and play the original games in the franchise, but stay away from the 2014 reboot. It's terrible. Number 9. Call of Duty Ghosts. This game gets crapped on pretty often, but I'm gonna go ahead and just crap on it some more. Leading up to its release, Ghosts was supposed to be the first truly next-gen entry into the franchise, showing off new visuals, gameplay features, physics, and bringing the series to new heights. Well, if you've played Ghosts on Xbox One or PS4, you know that isn't actually what happened. The next-gen versions of the game looked exactly like the 360 and the PlayStation 3 versions, and the game didn't really look that good. Aside from the subpar graphics, Ghost struggled with its frame rate and a good amount of bugs at launch. Overall, Ghost just was not the next-gen experience that it promised it would be. And it's probably one of my least favorite Call of Duty games in the entire franchise. Number 8. Mass Effect 3. Leading up to the release of the conclusion of the critically acclaimed trilogy, Mass Effect fans were eager to see how their choices throughout the series would impact the fate of the galaxy. BioWare employees and even the director himself stated multiple times in interviews that the ending would be dependent on what you've done throughout your time in the series, and that it would be amazing and not traditional. I'm sure you guys know what happened next though, as the Mass Effect 3 ending went down in gaming history as one of the worst ever. None of the decisions you made throughout the series, or even Mass Effect 3 itself, mattered in the end, and there were only a handful of endings, almost all of which looked exactly the same. I have no idea what happened here or what led so many BioWare employees to straight up lie about what was in the end of the game, but it was beyond scummy. If you're going to go on the record in interviews and say that your game is going to be absolutely incredible and the game's ending is going to blow your mind, you better be 100% positive that you're telling the truth. Number 7. Duke Nukem Forever. There's not any one specific lie told here that we're going to focus on, but rather just the overall description of the game from the developers, who all claimed it was going to be worth the 15-year wait. For those of you who have been living under a rock, Duke Nukem Forever was famously in development for over a decade. It shifted from studio to studio and console to console. When it finally came out in 2011, it was widely regarded as one of the worst games ever made due to its outdated graphics, terrible physics, unfunny jokes, and bad writing. Leading up to the game's release, 3D Realms was hyping it up and saying it was just as good, if not better, than the classic Duke Nukem games that came before it. But it's pretty hard to believe that anyone over at that studio thought the game was even remotely as good as Duke Nukem 3D or Duke Nukem Time to Kill. Nice try, 3D Realms. That game is awful. A 15-year wait? For nothing? Come on, man. Number 6. Titanfall. Respawn Entertainment was founded by ex-Infinity Ward employees, many of whom worked on the legendary Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2 titles. After a massive conflict with Activision, Infinity Ward's founders and the majority of their staff resigned and created a new studio with the goal of taking down Call of Duty with their new multiplayer first-person shooter. Respawn boasted that their new game would be a COD killer, and most everyone believed them due to Call of Duty starting to struggle with Ghosts, which had been released shortly before Titanfall did. While Titanfall was a ton of fun, it absolutely was not a COD killer. Not even close. It released in a very unstable state and had a pretty shocking lack of content, with only a handful of populated game modes, the absence of custom matches, and an awful campaign that was basically only 3 hours. Thankfully, Respawn pretty much fixed all of their mistakes with Titanfall 2, but their initial claims of the franchise being a Call of Duty killer are still yet to be fulfilled. And in my opinion, Titanfall never really had that replayability feature. It just got boring after a while. A cool idea, but then you're back to Call of Duty. Number 5, KILLZONE 2. If you remember when this game was shown off in 2005, you know how amazing it looked. It was realistic, gritty, and everyone wanted to get their hands on it. But as it turns out, the gameplay trailer shown off at E3 2005 wasn't actually gameplay at all, but rather just a CGI cutscene intended to look like gameplay. Sony was desperate to get players onto the PlayStation 3 over Xbox 360, and were definitely scared by Gears of War and Halo 3, so they decided to resort to lying about what the PS3 would hold, hoping it would bring shooter fans over to the PlayStation 3. Sony of course denied that the E3 KILLZONE 2 demo was fake, but that only made their reputation even worse once it was revealed that there was absolutely no real gameplay in the gameplay trailer. Ever wonder why PlayStation 3 failed to beat the Xbox 360 in the shooter department? Look no further than this fiasco back in 2005. I mean, the game looked amazing, but it was fake. It wasn't even a game. Number 4, Dead Island. Remember the original trailer for Dead Island? With the family on vacation and the little girl getting infected and the whole thing moving in reverse? It's easily one of the best video game trailers of all time, but it's also easily one of the most misleading. Comparing the trailer to the actual gameplay is pretty jarring, as the elements in the trailer have nothing to do with the game itself, aside from the fact that there are zombies on a beach. The trailer suggested that Dead Island would be mature and emotional, and what we got was, well, definitely not that. I'm not saying Dead Island is a bad game by any means, but it definitely isn't the game that was initially advertised. Number 3, Watch Dogs. You guys probably all remember this one. When Watch Dogs was first shown off at E3 2012, it looked amazing. It looked incredible. It looked revolutionary. There was a stunning amount of detail and gameplay options involving environments and NPCs. You could hack into anything you saw, and it looked natural and seamless. I'm sure you guys know what happened here. When Watch Dogs actually came out, everyone was pretty pissed off to find out that the game had been seriously downgraded since the trailer, and what we got was a buggy mess with pretty outdated graphics. While Watch Dogs isn't a horrible game, it's definitely frustrating that Ubisoft knowingly showed off a trailer that didn't represent the final product in any way, especially when it was revealed that Ubisoft had sent reviewers free Nexus tablets in order to bribe them into giving Watch Dogs a higher score, suggesting that the studio knew this game wasn't worthy of high scores on its own. A little advice to video game developers: if you find yourself having to bribe reviewers to get a high score, your game is probably terrible. Maybe just be honest with gamers and say, hey, that trailer that you saw back at E3? Well, the game isn't really lining up with it yet, and we're going to have to delay it until we can deliver a game that you expect. A little honesty goes a long way. Number 2, Metal Gear Solid 2. If you're a fan of this iconic series, you know exactly what I'm talking about with this one. Well, when the first trailers dropped for Metal Gear Solid 2, The Twin Snakes, we got awesome sequences featuring Solid Snake, the big badass himself. However, gamers were pretty upset when the game came out and it was revealed that Snake wasn't actually the main character. Sure, you played the first hour of the game as Snake, but then you have to go through the next 12 hours with Raiden, a much less liked character. Director Hideo Kojima revealed later that he had intentionally lied to fans, stating that if they had said right off the bat that Snake wasn't the main character, he didn't think people would buy the game. So he made the trailer with Snake sequences, and even showed gameplay footage of levels where you played as Raiden, but replaced the character model with Snake, just to coax you into buying it. While Metal Gear Solid 2 is a great game, it's definitely gone down in history as one of the biggest lies game companies have ever told. Hey Hideo Kojima, you're kind of a scumbag. And the number 1 spot in the top 10 lies game companies told gamers to sell more copies is No Man's Sky. If you didn't expect this to be at number 1, I don't really know what to tell you. Easily one of the biggest pile of lies to ever be released in video game form, No Man's Sky was released in 2016 for PC and the PlayStation 4. Leading up to the game's release, hype was through the roof as developers described it as a new kind of video game that would change the industry, describing features that weren't actually in the final product. They even went as far to show off gameplay footage that wasn't actually part of the game itself. When the game came out, gamers were outraged at how mediocre the game actually was and how blatantly the developers lied about the actual contents of it. What was supposed to be a new, industry-changing adventure turned out to be nothing more than just a below-average space exploration game. That concludes my list for the top 10 lies video game developers told fans in order to sell more copies of their game. My name is Bernsey, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you learned something today. If you'd like to see more videos, there's a playlist down below for your viewing pleasure, and if you'd like to submit your own ideas for future videos, click the link below. My name once again is Bernsey, thanks for stopping by, have yourself a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.